So today I'm going to give an overview of the recent census results relating to men aged 40 to 59. So these results are based on the census population that was held every 5 years in Ireland, and the most recent one was in 2016. And just to say now, there's a census in Northern Ireland held every 10 years, and the last one was in 2011. So unfortunately I don't have comparative data for Northern Ireland today, but there is a report from which combined the data from the 2011 round of census available, and hopefully there'll be similar data available after the 2021 census. So I suppose this is just really a small selection of the data that's available from the census. There's a lot more detailed geographical data available and across a whole range of themes. I just want to give you an idea of some of the key results that came out of the last census. And as I was saying, all the data in this is related to men aged 40 to 59. So if I'm not saying it all the time, it's just so that you're aware. So a quick age profile and give you an idea of the size of the cohort of men in this category. So 622,000 men in Ireland, as we classified as middle-aged in 2016, and we can see that's up 45,500 since 2011. That's nearly an 8% increase over the 5 years, and that compares to an increase of about 4% in the general population. So it's, that age cohort's increased at twice the rate of the general population. And you can see across all ages, each single year of age there was an increase in the numbers of men in each age. Sorry. But those changes weren't spread evenly across the country. Similar to the general changes in population, the increase in men was particularly high in Fingal, up nearly 20% over the 5 years. Also in other counties around Dublin, you can see increase in Louth, Meath, Laois, Kildare, and also in Galway City. And some of that will be due to maybe people moving there in 15, 20 years ago, say in the last boom, and then they're obviously getting a bit older now, and so we're seeing large increases then in population in those areas. So this just gives an overview of the marital status of men. So over 400,000 of that group, 65%, were in their first marriage, and there was 1,000 people in a registered same-sex civil partnership. There was also 140,000 single men aged 40 to 59, and that's up 20% since 2011. So I suppose it's growing at a faster rate, the number of single men, but that would be their legal status as opposed to, say, their relationship status. So we'll see a bit later on, it's not that they're not in relationships, it's just that there's less men getting married. And the number separated divorced is around the same at 53,500. We did see a slight increase in the numbers divorced and a decrease in the number separated, but the overall number combined is relatively similar. And there's a 10% increase in the number of men who were remarried. So 253 households were made up of a married couple or children, where the head of the household was a male aged 40 to 59. So that's broadly the same number as we're in 2011. And the number of one-person households is up 6%. The number of cohabiting couples of children is up 50%, so it's a much smaller group, but it's grown quite rapidly. So it's, I suppose, a change we've seen where we've greater numbers of men living men and women having children without getting married. The number of one-parent father households remained the same at around 13,500. So there wasn't really much change there. And we saw the number of non-family households up 33%. So that would be households with say a flat share or house share where you might have this might be part of the reasons for this might be to do with the increased housing pressures and so on, and the cost of housing. So you have more people living together, and less people then be able to afford maybe their own properties. So to give a quick overview of the employment situation. So the big change, I suppose, as you know, there was a big drop in unemployment over the 5 years. So there would have been about an unemployment rate of about 20% in 2011, and that was down to about 12% in 2016. And when you look at men aged 40 to 59, the younger men, it dropped from about 20% down to 10%, men in the early 40s, but the older men dropped from about 20% down to about 15%, so maybe shows that some of the men in the older age categories are finding it more difficult to get back to work. And another thing we've seen a large increase in, even though the numbers are relatively small, is the number of men looking after the home or family. So it's now 11,500 men aged 40 to 59 whose status is looking after the home and family, up 24% over the 5 years. And that's a long-term trend. It's small numbers, but it's increasing quite rapidly. And we've seen I suppose equivalent decreases in the numbers of women looking after the home and family as more women enter the workforce. And we've also seen a drop in the number of retired men, down 20%, aged 40 to 59. And I suppose retirement ages are getting older, so we're going to see that maybe continue to drop. The number of men unable to work because due to illness is 37,500 and just down slightly in 2011. So the general trend in education is that people are getting higher levels of education. We can see that here. The numbers who had a primary education or no formal education only is down 30% over the 5 years, while the numbers with degrees and postgraduate qualifications is up 30%, 40%. So that's just a general trend we've seen, I suppose, as younger people have higher levels of education, so as they move into the older cohorts, we're seeing that change. There's a question on the census form which reports your general health. So how's your general health? And there's 5 categories: very good, good, fair, bad, and very bad. So nearly 90% of men reported their general health as very good or good, very similar proportion to 2011. But there were 12,000 men who had a self-perceived general health as bad or very bad. This is the disability rates then by age. So we actually saw drops in the proportion of men with disability across nearly all age groups, particularly in some of the older age groups, persons in their 50s. The proportion of men with disabilities gone from close to 20%, just down a couple of percentages. And then for men in the 40s, it's around the 10% mark. So more specifically, looking at the different disability types, the largest disability reported was men having a chronic illness or condition or difficulty with pain or breathing. So that's over 40,000 men. And there were nearly 30,000 men who reported of a condition that substantially limits basic physical activities. But the largest increase was actually in men reporting having a psychological or emotional condition. That was up 19% over the 5 years. So I suppose that's probably the biggest trend to come out of the disability data. So that was a bit of a whirlwind tour of some of our census results. So I suppose in summary, well, there's many kind of positive figures coming out of the census. Unemployment is down, the level of education is up, perception of health is quite high, is quite good, and the disability rates are slightly down. This is a very large cohort of men. We're talking about 620,000. There are some notable changes we saw with children increasing. There might be different rights then, depending on compared to married couples. And we've also seen, that there are still a lot of men out of work, 37,000 men out of work due to illness or disability. And we've also seen that large increase then in the number of men with the psychological or emotional condition. So I think that's everything. So thanks for listening.